It's all good, man. Hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite TV shows, and today I'm going to finally do a review on the latest Better Call Saul Season 5. So, yeah, it's been 2 years since the last Better Call Saul season. And surprisingly, well, actually, not surprisingly, given how good of a team of writers they are, but Better Call Saul has been one of the best and most underrated TV shows of the past several years. And believe it or not, Better Call Saul is actually a spin off of a very famous TV show called Breaking Bad, and Breaking Bad had always been my favorite TV show of all times. Number one, created by Vince Gilligan. There are just so many super well written, fleshed out, three-dimensional characters in peculiar situations trying to commit crime while covering their own trails up. It's a really intense, suspenseful, clever, emotional ride. And I'm talking about both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, because Better Call Saul is a spin-off where the main character is a lawyer. In Breaking Bad, he is Saul Goodman, but Better Call Saul is basically a prequel to that. And for the first 4 seasons, he had always been using his real name, Jimmy McGill, and he had been through a lot of trouble. He had a brother, Chuck McGill, who really hates him. So there was a lot of feud, and beef between them. And then we have all sorts of other troubles left and right, and it has all led to season 5. So if you're looking for a recap, I kinda don't want to do that because there's a lot that happened between seasons 1 to 4. So just feel free to watch other recap videos or watch my previous reviews, but I will be focusing on season 5 solely on this video. First of all, there is something about Better Call Saul that just stands out from the rest of the TV shows. I mean, from the rest of a lot of the TV shows on air right now. The story is really well written. It isn't super unrealistic or superficial, yet there's always something entertaining about each and one storyline. Again, the characters, they are really rootable and really likable, yet they don't feel like a carbon copy of something else. I mean, they all feel really original. Again, Jimmy McGill, or now Saul Goodman, is a really smart but also sleazy and the kind of a lawyer that cuts corners and cheat a lot, but he's really well spoken. And then we have his girlfriend, Kim Wexler, who used to be a pretty boring character, not gonna lie, but the writers turned her into one of the most badass and kick-ass characters on the show. So shout out to the writers. We have Mike Ehrmantraut, who is also a total badass, who's always cool, calm, and collected, and just very reliable. And we have Gus Fring. He's not the number one big boss, but he is one of the up there guys who runs a restaurant chain called the Los Pollos Hermanos, but also this is the same fast food restaurant chain that distributes meth. And we also have the likes of Hector Salamanca, who is Gus Fring's what's the word? Competition. And of course, Hector Salamanca, the guy Nacho, who is a good-hearted man who likes his family but is caught in the middle of the whole gang mafia thing, and now Gus Fring has a gun to his father's head, so Nacho had to secretly help Gus by secretly poisoning Hector Salamanca. So now Hector Salamanca can't speak, he's paralyzed, and he can't do anything. So another person by the name of Lalo Salamanca decided to help Hector Salamanca and avenge him and fight Gus Fring himself. And that's basically Better Call Saul Season 5. Two more things to talk about. why this show has been one of the best shows on TV. The cinematography is absolutely fantastic. After every single season, it just gets better and better and better. It's like the DP just gets more and more matured every season in his own vision. And then we have the tone of Better Call Saul, which is not extremely fast paced or intense or anything, but it feels really realistic. There's a natural tone to a lot of the scenes that makes it feel so real and grounded. So the season starts off with episode 1, Magic Man, which, of course, like any other season, it starts off with a black and white monochrome flash forward where, after the events of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, Jimmy McGill would become Gene, who works in, I think, Nebraska, some random mall in Nebraska, working in a Cinnabon. And in the flash forward, we see him immediately after he got hospitalized because 2 seasons ago he passed out on the ground, and then on season 4, in the beginning of season 4, Gene was in the hospital and he had to leave, and the hospital person asked for his security number. And so in season 5, he was extremely paranoid. So in order to keep himself safe, he decided to hide himself in like somewhere far away. But that's basically it. Anyways, not that much had happened on episode 1, but there are actually a lot of really good scenes. So first of all, Saul Goodman has finally begun, and instead of being a really high level lawyer who, works for very high level clients and be paid really well, instead Jimmy decided to work as a lawyer for the little criminals, drug dealers, people with felonies. And there is this montage where he just sets up a booth, and a lot of people would just line up and get legal advice from him, and he would give away cards. That was a really, really good montage. One thing that I love about Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul are their absolutely well edited montages with amazing musical choices. And then on the other hand, we have Mike bringing the Germans home. In season 4, Gus had to introduce a lot of Germans and ask them to build him a super lab, which will be a very important location in Breaking Bad. And now Mike had to bring the Germans home. In the meantime, Lalo Salamanca is here and he is against Gus Fring. And Nacho was originally in the Salamanca gang, but of course he became a part of Gus's gang as well. So Nacho sort of caught in between the two gangs, and things are just really dicey for him. So yeah, overall, I kind of like the episode. I think it's pretty good. Not a very eventful and explosive episode, but I still enjoy it a lot. Then it is episode 2, 50% off, and there is another montage that I really, really enjoy. Again, really well edited. The tone, the really fast-paced, high, drunk, crazy tone of the montage is just very addictive, and it just gets better and better. And essentially in the montage, a couple of criminals, after getting Saul Goodman's card, they just went around and keep doing crimes and doing drugs and robbing people and breaking things to a point where they're oblivious of what they're even doing because they're high all the time. Anyways, there's an extremely hilarious scene involving Crazy 8. Crazy 8, one of the characters from season 1 of Breaking Bad, the Ocho Loco. And Crazy 8, he's not in the high levels, he is in one of the middle levels, I guess. So it's Crazy 8, and then Nacho, and then Lalo, and then Hector, and above Hector, it's Don Eladio, who is the ultimate big boss. And Okay, it sounds complicated, but trust me. Hear this out. So Crazy 8, not necessarily a person in the high ranks of the cartel, but a lot of people who would sell drugs in these little premises, in these abandoned premises. They kind of work for Crazy 8. And so the 50% off guys, the guys who ran around and did crimes, they decided to purchase more meth. Instead, they somehow didn't get the meth because you had to throw uh, these little bags of meth down a pipe, and the buyers will have to catch those bags in at the other end of the pipe, basically. Very primal way of drug dealing. And the drugs got stuck in the pipe. So Crazy 8 was there fixing the pipe because, uh, of course, nobody wanted to fix it. And then the cops came, and then Crazy 8's like, "Oh, nah, I'm just fixing the pipe. Look, I'm just fixing it." And then the drugs just came out, and he's like, "That was hilarious. I feel terrible for Crazy 8." Um, At the same time, Gus tells Nacho to get more info on Lalo and try to gain Lalo's trust. So there's this other scene where Nacho had to secretly retrieve the drugs and retrieve all the drugs in the abandoned premise, stored in the abandoned premise, and avoid the cops somehow. That was a really good scene as well. Of course, Jimmy McGill had tons and tons of clients, but of course he doesn't want to, go through the trouble of having to discuss each and one of those clients formally and officially in like a courthouse or something. So he trapped. This is insane, but he pulled it off. He trapped the judge in the elevator with him and went through all the cases, like almost all the cases, and just reduced all of their charges. And yeah, really smart. Um, and also we have a little storyline with Mike. Mike didn't do much on the first half of season 5, but basically Mike, of course, Mike takes care of his son's wife and his son's daughter, so his granddaughter. And when he was taking care of his granddaughter brought up his Mike's son, and Mike was upset about it because something really traumatic happened. But that's basically it. Not a bad episode at all. Episode 3, the guy for this, is another really fantastic episode, in my opinion, because we have the return of two very important characters in Breaking Bad. And a minor spoiler alert, they are Hank and Gomez, two DEA agents. And of course, given that they're in the DEA, and given that Crazy 8 just fucked up, they had to investigate where did all the meth come from. So they basically questioned Crazy 8. And then Nacho and Lalo, they got Jimmy to persuade Crazy 8 to lie to Hank and Gomez. And instead of, telling them about their Salamanca side of things, Crazy 8 told Gomez and Hank about the Gus Fring side of things without telling them about Gus Fring, of course, because that would just bring the whole cartel down. But Crazy 8 revealed a few dead drop locations for the Gus Fring side of the cartel, which means indirectly Lalo had successfully attacked Gus Fring's side of the cartel by confiscating him of millions of dollars, which is a really smart move. Lalo Salamanca is not to be underrated. He's extremely smart and charismatic as well. And then we have another storyline where Kim Wexler, who is a lawyer for a bank, a huge bank called Mesa Verde, who wanted to build a call center in the middle of the boondocks, in the middle of nowhere. And this one guy, Mr. Acker, who lived in a house, just refused to leave. So Kim was told to try to persuade this guy to leave, but this guy just wouldn't leave, and this became one of the major storylines of the season. Moving over to episode 4, Namaste, which I think is the slowest and the least eventful episode of the entire season. There is an entire scene that isn't really related to the major storyline of the season at all, where Jimmy had to deal with the 50% guys, the guys who, ran away after their drugs got stuck in the pipe, and Jimmy had to fix their issues and stuff. And then at the same time, we have Hank and Gomi sort of trying to get the debt drops on the Gus Fring's cartel side. And then we have another storyline that feels kind of off-putting, even though it's going to be more relevant in the next season. But basically, Howard showed up again, and Howard used to be Chuck and Jimmy's colleague, and he is also a really high-level lawyer. And Howard offered a job to Jimmy because he thought Jimmy had no jobs anymore. No, because Jimmy had just retrieved his lawyer license again, and Howard and Jimmy, they used to hate each other a lot, but now Howard had a change of mind, I guess, and this really pissed Jimmy off, so Jimmy decided to buy bowling balls and toss them at Howard's house and break his car. And on another scene, which is extremely hilarious and smart, where Jimmy sent 2 prostitutes to Howard's lunch table, destroying Howard's reputation. That was hilarious. But overall, I think episode 4 is, again, one of the least memorable episodes of season 5. We also have the next episode, episode 5, Dedicado a Max, which is pretty much equally as slow paced, but basically at the end of the previous episode, Mike ran into a small gang of people in the hood, and the gang of people beat Mike up, and Mike passed out. He was stabbed and he passed out. And Mike woke up in some faraway remote village in Mexico, down beyond the border. And of course, it's Gus Fring. Gus Fring tries to keep Mike alive because Mike is useful to Gus. And on the other hand, we have the whole Mr. Acker thing where, Mr. Acker refused to leave his house, which means Mesa Verde cannot build a call center. So Kim had a really smart idea to tell Jimmy to become Mr. Acker's lawyer against Mesa Verde. So in a way, Kim is actually against Mesa Verde now, and Kim tries to bring down Mesa Verde, and with the help of Jimmy, who's helping Mr. Acker bring down Mesa Verde. There's a really funny scene where Jimmy had to convince Mr. Acker, and he showed him a photo of a guy fucking a horse, and he's like, imagine the guy's me, and imagine the horse is Mesa Verde. And we have an entire montage where the construction workers sent by Mesa Verde are constantly stopped from entering Mr. Acker's house or anywhere nearby, and Jimmy would come up with really fun ideas by hiding pieces of artifacts near his house and have people dig up the artifacts, like, oh hey, there's heritage artifacts, and then he would like spray metallic dust all around so that there would be radiation detected or something, and so the construction workers can't do anything about that. And then he would paint like a fake Jesus graffiti on the wall of the house, and there would be tourists going there just to take photos of the Jesus graffiti. It's really, really hilarious. One of the funniest scenes of the entire show so far. Anyways, the season just gets better and better and better from there on. Episode 6, Wexler versus Goodman, is the ultimate ending to the entire Kim Wexler and Jimmy McGill versus Mesa Verde storyline. But in order to, bring this to an end, Jimmy McGill did something unexpected, did something really surprising that definitely betrayed the trust between him and Kim. And that was a really, really crazy scene where originally Jimmy agreed to Kim. Kim said, "Okay, you know what? We're taking it too far. We are really damaging Mesa Verde. Like, let's stop this. It's too far." And Jimmy's like, "Okay, sure. You know what? It's you. I respect your decision. It's fine." And he did not listen to Kim at all. He made an entire fake ad to expose Mesa Verde of robbing people's money and doing bad things, and he threatened Mesa Verde and told Mesa Verde to pay up and to make public apologies, because if they don't do that, then he'll release this ad. And that was a crazy scene. I was legit shocked in that scene. Episode 7 JMM is even better of a scene because at the end of episode 6, Gus had a very smart idea to bring down Lalo, to arrest the guy. And because Lalo killed someone last season, and the cops are still onto the killer, Mike, pretending to be a private investigator, secretly leaked some evidence that points to Lalo. So Lalo was arrested, and while Lalo was arrested, while he was in custody, Lalo still had the power to tell his men to burn down a Los Pollos Hermanos restaurant. So Lalo is on the upper hand once again for some reason. So Gus and Nacho had to burn it down themselves, and that was a really good sequence. And then we have the scenes where Mike had to convince Saul or Jimmy to get Lalo out of jail on bail, meaning that he's not going to serve anymore in prison. He only needs to pay, which is nearly impossible because Lalo killed a guy. It's homicide. You kind of have to go to prison for homicide. But Jimmy and Mike, with their big brains, they got Lalo out on bail. And afterwards, at the end, we even have a scene where Howard approaches Saul / Jimmy once again. And Jimmy went off. Thunderbolts at my fingertips. Episode 8, Bagman, is probably my favorite episode of the entire series so far. It is absolutely amazing of an episode. So amazing. I felt like I was suffocating and burning in the dry desert when I was watching this episode. So basically, Jimmy got Lalo out on bail, but Lalo needed to pay the bail money, $7 million. $7 million, and you know where that money comes from the Salamanca cartel, of course. So Jimmy had to pick up the bail money because Lalo basically trusts no one else. So Jimmy went to the desert in the middle of nowhere near the border to pick up the money, and of course, the plan goes awry. The picking up the money part is the easiest part because immediately afterwards, things happen. Without spoiling much, a shootout happened. But of course, someone saved Jimmy. And because Jimmy's car was shot, it was broken. So the person who saved Jimmy and Jimmy himself had to walk in the desert on foot back to Albuquerque, New Mexico. And for the entire rest of the episode, like 30 something minutes, 40 minutes ish, it's just them walking in the desert. I think 30 something minute ish. And there's a lot of scenes where they were just hopeless. Jimmy was hopeless. He ran out of water and he had to drink his own pee. He had serious sunburns and his lips were dry and he was crying and his phone can't receive any signal. It was just so full of despair and hopelessness. It's really, it's not a situation that I would be in. You can give me $1 million and I would still refuse to be in such a terrible situation. And to add salt to the injury, because Jimmy, of course, told Kim everything, Kim straight up talked to Lalo Salamanca and asked him, where's Jimmy? Yeah. I mean, Kim has balls of steel. Another reason why this is a very important episode is that this is actually one of the first actual encounters where Jimmy encounters an opposing, a rival cartel gang who almost killed him. So this is his first experience of cartel violence, thus putting him in shock. And then we have episode 9, Bad Choice Road, which is also a pretty great episode, though I saw the ratings for this episode. It was really high, but so, you know, I went into this episode thinking that it's going to be another really great episode, but I was a little bit let down, slightly let down, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that it's a really good episode. First of all, the teaser for the episode. We have another Something Stupid montage, where it's a split screen. We see Jimmy just walking in the desert really hopelessly, and then we see Kim going about her life, feeling worried and sad, and that was a really good montage. And at the very end of the episode, there is this really, really suspenseful scene where Lalo was gonna leave USA because he was already arrested. He can't stay anymore before the cops find out what he actually did. So he had to escape to Mexico. But before he escaped to Mexico, he saw that there are bullet holes in Jimmy's car, and Jimmy's car was left out in the desert, and he found it. And so he went all the way back to Albuquerque to question Jimmy and Kim in their apartment because he thought something else had happened. And that was one of the few scenes that just gets me super on the edge of my seat. Like, oh my god, Lalo is pissed, and you don't want that. And the episode ended off really, really amazingly, where Kim stands up to Lalo. I mean, Kim's just really badass. She just has balls of steel. Does she realize that she's talking to a high-level cartel member? But anyways, at the end, no one's harmed, everybody's safe, and that's a crazy scene. Yeah. At the end, we have episode 10, Something Unforgivable, and it's also a very fantastic ending episode, in my opinion. So, again, we have two sides of things. Jimmy and Kim, they went to a hotel to hide out because they thought they were still in danger, when in fact they're not, because Lalo had already gone south to Mexico, bringing Nacho with him. And at the same time, there was someone else who's onto Lalo, and it's not really Gus Fring, but it's someone who's secretly helping Gus Fring, and that is Don Juan, or Juan Bolsa. So Don Juan plotted the assassination of Lalo Salamanca, and there's this scene where Nacho was given an order to secretly open a gate in the Salamanca resort, in the Salamanca house, and that was so suspenseful. Like, I was legit very afraid for Nacho's life. I'm not gonna say if the assassination plot went successful or not, but the ending was such a good cliffhanger, also a very scary cliffhanger. I was like, oh my god, Nacho is fucked. Oh no. Yeah, Lalo is a really great villain, but gosh darn, the ending is just so smartly written. Like, you can tell Lalo is like high IQ, but yet Lalo is such a scary person. Yeah, we also have Jimmy and Kim plotting Howard's demise, and it's really cool that Kim is starting to break bad like Jimmy himself as well. Really good character development, really smart as well. So yeah, overall, Better Call Saul season 5 is another really satisfying and consistent season. A lot of amazing dialogue writing. The dialogues, they flow really naturally and beautifully. There are a lot of amazing quotes here. Gus quotes, Mike quotes, and while there are some scenes that don't necessarily feel related to the overall theme or the overall storyline, and while there are a few moments here and there that feel kind of slow paced and uneventful, I still think overall this is a fantastic watch. I think this is quality television, and I am just really happy, especially the fact that Vince Gilligan has apparently left Better Call Saul, which is sad because he is a mastermind, but I think the writing team is still good enough. So, yeah, my favorite episode here is Bagman, episode 8, and my least favorite is episode 4, Namaste. I am giving Better Call Saul's season 5 a light to decent 9 out of 10. So, have you watched Better Call Saul season 5 from 1 to 10? How much did you rate it? Like if you like it and subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching. Also, in case you haven't noticed, I'm not using a script anymore. I'm using bullet points, and that's why I'm over talking. That's why this video is so long. So I'll keep using scripts then, because this is not a good idea.